Hey y'all, this is Wonderfully Me. I just want to thank you for coming in and checking out to hear what I have to say. Today is going to be one of those semi PJ Chronicles kind of days. And if you are new here, you may not know what that is, but you'll find out. This is one where I'm kind of discussing more about my chronic illness and living with chronic illness as a traveler, a slow traveler. Yes. So I'm currently not traveling. I am in a sedentary spot, but I am looking forward to some travel in the near future. Unfortunately, I have been under the weather, as I may have mentioned in some recent videos, that I've been experiencing. Um, so let me just back up a smidge for anybody who might be new here. Everybody who's back, thank you for coming back. I love y'all. You know, you're my fams. I love y'all. And anybody new, welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay. Having said that, I am. My channel is Wonderfully Me. I am a person who is living with a chronic illness. In this particular case, fibromyalgia. I don't know if I have any other autoimmune diseases because they're, it's a very difficult uh, route to be diagnosed and to get full treatment for everything that's going on. But having said all that, there were people before me living with chronic illness, and there'll be people after me. My goal is to maybe help to explain what life is like, and also to be vulnerable about feeling guilty um, for having this challenge that a lot of people don't understand. And um, for people, sometimes, I mean, even well meaning people, just saying things that are hurtful, even if you have a thick skin, it's a little bit hurtful because you feel misunderstood. And it may come off as complaining a lot, and or maybe not doing enough, because they're like, yeah, well, you got this, you got to, you still got to get out and you got to do something, you need to set some goals, you need to blah blah blah. And I hear people who tell me all the time, like, oh, well, for me, I just need to, keep it moving and do this. And I understand that. I totally understand it, and I feel like if that's what works for you, it works for you. My experience has been that I need to get somewhere and sit down, because typically by the time I'm even mentioning it to anyone what I'm feeling, I've already been feeling it for a long time, and I've already been trying my best to manage without saying anything. So, yeah, I most of the time I just try not to say anything. I try to keep a low profile, and when I answer the phone, I try to act like I have more energy than I do, and whatever. And I know that that is so like disingenuous, and it's like I'm doing a disservice to myself because I know what I'm experiencing. But what I've learned over these years is that people aren't so interested in hearing your story daily. People aren't interested in hearing your story daily. They may take a little dose of you, this week, and maybe a few weeks later you can say it again or whatever. But typically, they don't want to hear your story every day. They don't want to hear that you don't feel good. They don't want to hear that, that this isn't going right, or you feel like this and that. Most people don't. I'm just keeping it 100. And even those people who say they love you, I see on so many of the fibromyalgia pages on Facebook where people are coming up there and saying that their significant other doesn't understand what it's like, and just thinks that they're lazy, and that they don't try, and that they just have given up on life or whatever. I see that all the time. That's not my experience, because you know I don't have the patience to deal with my illness and anybody else's stuff. So I don't I know that I'm managing myself. And as this type A personality that I am, it people have no idea the struggle that I feel not being able to produce. I would hate to think that my worth is only, um, what is the word? My worth is only uh, calculated. I'm telling you the fiber fog, but my worth is only calculated in what I'm able to produce for others. I mean, for myself to a degree, but for others, because I've always been a giver my whole life. So I know that sometimes I slip back into that because I don't have a lot to give. I don't have a lot to share. I still share what I have, but I don't have a lot. And when I tell you that, I'm not talking about just financial resources. I'm talking about time, energy, patience. I just don't have a wealthy reserve. So I don't have a lot to share or to give to others. And for the most part, people don't have that for me either, right? And I have, when doing well, I have been able to manage that. Like, oh well, I provide my own meat and potatoes. Anything else that you get from others is just gravy, right? Regardless of whether or not the meal tastes as good as it does with the gravy, you still get full. So that's always the way I've lived my life. I've just never had anybody giving me anything. But what I have found is that a lot of times in my most difficult times, speaking of recent years where I have been disabled, um, that that most people, just feel like, just like get over yourself, or feel like get over yourself. You're not the only one going through things. These things happen to everybody. That's like I was told when I was saying, oh, I'm having all this pain in my 20s, and I was going through all this back and forth to the doctors and couldn't figure out whatever it was, and I finally ended up diagnosing myself with endometriosis myself, like not a doctor, but smart enough to research. And people were telling me, and when I'm saying people, I'm not talking about just friends and family. I'm talking about doctors. It's all in your head. Everybody has cramps. You're just gonna have to get over it. Just take these ibuprofen and go home. Put a warm compress on it. Use a heating pad. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, I'm telling them this the most excruciating pain I've ever experienced, and people doubt that. People doubt that. And I began to doubt myself. Like, really, is it in my head? Until I had end up having surgery. I had finally found a surgeon who was able to diagnose through and use an MRI and said, yes, you have endometriosis, plus a plethora of other things going on. And he said that this was the worst case of endometriosis he had ever seen in his career. But for all those years, people were just saying like, "Oh, you just complaining, you just complaining." I'm like, "No." So I think this is this whole conversation I'm having is a reminder for me that you have to believe in yourself, and you have to know where you are, and you have to also recognize that no one else knows your baseline. Nobody else knows when you're like this. When you're mentioning it, you're probably here, you know what I'm saying? Even though the pain might go way above your head, okay? You're not mentioning it when it's below here because you're not even at baseline, right? That's nothing. But nobody else knows your baseline. So everybody else's baseline might be here, and that's like no pain, just regular. And here is already a place because yours is so much lower, the threshold is so much lower. Here, you like, I can't even take it. You have to know where your baseline is. You have to know and believe in yourself and advocate for yourself and take care of yourself. You have to be that person to do it. I, as I said, get frustrated with myself when I'm not able to do the things that I have done in the past. When my brain isn't functioning like it used to, when I can't problem solve, when it like lickety split and come up with a gazillion different ways to manage the situation that's going on, I am frustrated. I'm frustrated because I don't like the lack of independence that I have. I don't like the inability to travel and move freely and enjoyably, comfortably through my life, with travel and whatever have you. Okay, I don't like it. So I can't imagine that anybody else is going to like it, want to hear about it, or understand it. So, I mean, I'm trying to allow myself some grace, but I'm constantly reminded by others that they only know their experience, and you have to know your experience, and you have to know what your limits are, what your boundaries are, what your expectations are, and you have to manage them accordingly. You have to manage them accordingly because you're responsible for you. I am responsible for me. I am responsible for me, and I have been going through some stuff. Okay? Yes, I've been going through some stuff, and I'm trying to get better, and I'm trying to make it through. And yesterday was a really, really rough day. I'm not sure. I think it may have been some anxiety that contributed to whatever I was experiencing yesterday to some degree. We'll see how it goes today. And I know that I have been at least more productive this morning than I had been. So I'm grateful for that. You know, cheers, here's to me. You know what I'm saying? Because the tiniest violin, you know, is playing in the background regardless. Regardless. People just don't care. People don't care. People don't understand. Even those who want to care don't even understand. So even they don't know, they don't want to know, you know, it is what it is. You know, if there some people are, as I've been told in the past, either unwilling or unable to empathize with where you are. So it's up to you to be on your own side. To be on your own side. So that's my good word for the day. My semi PJ Chronicles, my discussion about life with fibromyalgia, and who knows what else. The message is take care of yourself. Love yourself. Be there for yourself. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. I don't always do that for myself, but I want to tell everyone, give yourself some grace. You know, that type A personality, boy, I just want to punch her in the face sometimes. Because I be feeling like less. I don't want to feel like less than. Who wants to feel like less than? Nobody. Shoot. Oh, raggedy tail rascals. Nobody wants to feel bad. Nobody wants to go through this life encumbered, uncomfortable, misunderstood. Nobody. Anyway, I just want to say thank you because I've talked way longer than I had anticipated. I want to say thank you for coming. You know, it means the world to me that I get to share my world with you. I've said that before, and I will continue to say that. It is a true blessing. It is a very cathartic, what's the word I want to look for? It's a cathartic, not experience, but we'll say experience for now. It's the ability to express myself and to feel like I'm being heard is really helpful to me, and helps me to find a way to laugh instead of cry all the time. Okay, now it don't work every day, but today it's working. So I just want to say thank you for that. Do me a favor, if you know anybody else who's living with challenges related to chronic illness, or or any kind of illness or wellness issue, let's just say wellness challenge, please, like this video, share it, comment below, yeah, tell me what you think about it. I greatly appreciate it, and it also does me a great favor because it helps for the algorithm to maybe pick it up and say, hey, blah blah blah. Okay. As I always like to say, do good in a way that benefits you and others, and be better. Be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday, and be an even greater version tomorrow. Until the next time, ciao for now.